Sitting here in the lounge of the Niger Hotel, of all places, with Ray Mansfield, the offensive center of the Pittsburgh Steelers. Ray, world champions. You are quite a durable player in your career. You've been playing 12, 13 seasons now with the Steelers. In fact, you own the team record of 154 consecutive games. During the Super Bowl, they showed an isolation view of Alan Page beating up on one of you guys, and it seems kind of ironic that a player like yourself in the middle of the offensive line can be as durable as you are. What is your secret of playing so many games in a row?
Superhuman strength. No, I don't know. It's people ask me that question all the time, and I think the secret is just being plain lucky, where you don't get hurt. And I play a position, if you do get hurt, that's not true. But no, I don't know how to answer your question. I don't have a secret. It's I've just never been seriously hurt enough to keep me out.
There was a new change in the blocking rules, I believe, in the NFL last year, and as a matter of fact, I read in a hometown newspaper that Carl Eller was complaining about how the offensive lineman can hold more. Did this help the play of the offensive line during the season?
Well, no, actually, the rule permits you. I mean, you can hold more. I mean, you can't. I mean, not can. It's a little different interpretation of the rule. It isn't a rule change. Referees or officials always made decisions on what is holding and what's not, and they permitted a little different technique, a little more extension of the arms in the blocking. But that's about all the rule involved. The rule change involved. I don't know why Carl complains. Nobody ever hold Carl. If you hold Carl, he gets mad and he starts beating you. So. It didn't really permit any more holding. Probably it kept people from holding less than more.
About the Super Bowl itself, it seems that Rocky Bleier and Franco Harris are running through the Vikings defensive line at will. Was there anything that the Steelers offensive line did during that game that seemed to open up those mammoth holes?
Yeah, we had a secret. We just blew them off the ball. No, I think we'd been blocking pretty well all season. Rocky came in about halfway through the season. They started Rocky. He hadn't been playing the first part, and Rocky is like having a third guard in the backfield. He's a little guy who's strong, and he gets down at those guys' knees and feet, and they can't get rid of him. So he helped the blocking. He has a good blocking back. But I tell you what we did early about halfway through the season. We started going one game plan. We didn't get away from it. We stayed with the same game plan right on through, and instead of trying to add a bunch of fancy stuff and new stuff, we stayed with stuff that we did well, and we didn't particularly go to attack people's weakness. We just ran with what we considered our strength.
Steelers are on top now, but they weren't always on top. In fact, just until recently, they started to have a contending team. You've been playing on both the winners and the losers. You've tasted both the sweet and the bitter cup. Did you see, or did you foresee the change coming? Did you see when the team was improving at all?
Believe it or not, I saw it, I think, in 1969. And in 1969, we won the first ball game of the year and lost 13 in a row. But I saw the players that they were getting, people like L.C. Greenwood and Joe Green and just a lot of young, good ball players. And I knew eventually that team was going to do something. In 70, we had a fair season, and 71 was a little better. And about 71, I just hoped that I could last to be with those teams, because I knew that they were going to be winning some divisional titles. And it's always kind of surprising when you win something like the Super Bowl. I think you think you can do it, but you've got to win that division first, and then after that, it's a new season every week, because you got to win that first playoff and then that second playoff, and then of course you got to go to the big one and win it. And we seemed to put it all together at the end of the season this year, and of course came out, and now we're no longer the doormats of the National Football League, but the world champions. It kind of sounds nice when you say that.
Sure does. I can imagine, especially since you were with the Steelers when they were the doormats of the NFL. Ray Mansfield, thanks a lot for talking with us tonight, and best of luck to you and the Steelers this coming season.
All right.
Talking now with Tom Mack, the offensive guard of the Los Angeles Rams, who is here in the Republic of Korea with the current USO Tour of NFL players. Tom, good to have you with us here in the Republic.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
Okay. Tom, the Rams traded John Hadl in midseason. He was the NFC's most valuable player 2 years ago. and that seems to be a drastic change from MVP to trade bait. What happened there? Was there any kind of politics or what?
Well, no, I don't think politics is the answer. The Rams have a tendency to do this. In the 9 years I've been there, we've traded 2 most valuable players in a period of like 2 years after they made it. Plus, we traded the most valuable coach in the league right after he made it. So that's 3 for 3. And that's pretty good. Everybody that wins a big award, we ship out. I think what happened with John, to be very honest, he didn't have a good start to his year. And they took him out of the lineup really to kind of shake him up. Sometimes they'll do that to a player just to get you mad at yourself and kind of make you get your thoughts back together. When that happened, Green Bay came in and made an offer that I think the Rams felt they couldn't refuse. They got a lot of draft choices, a lot of high draft choices in the offer for John, and the result was in the deal that they made for John. I think they felt that they could build on the draft choices and really create a team that was going to be outstanding for a long time, not just for another few years. So I think it was a question of everybody's expendable, if the price is right, and they just happen to come in with the right price.
I think being a follower of American Football Conference teams and knowing that Hadel played at San Diego, I seem to remember that he had it took him a long while to get warmed up in preseason. Now that the players strike last year, do you think that might have given him a hard time as far as getting warmed up?
Well, John's a very dear friend of mine. I think of all the kids that I played with over the years at quarterback, I probably personally like John better than anybody. I don't think the strike had any effect on what happened at all, primarily because of the fact that everybody had the same amount of time. And the thing that was really the key to it is 2 years ago, we won a lot of games very easily. And we threw a lot of long passes to Harold Jackson, and we really snuck up on some teams. This year when we tried to do that, and that's what happened, we tried to do the same thing. Everybody played Harold Jackson about 30 yards off the ball, and you just, he couldn't get behind him. So John was frustrated, and I think we all were a little bit. And when things don't go well, the quarterback gets blamed, and when things go well, he's a hero. So, it's a tough spot. You're either in the penthouse or you're in the basement.
You got an awful lot. Tom Mack, All-Pro guard, the Los Angeles Rams. Good to have you with us here in the Republic, and best of luck to you and the Rams this season.
Thank you very much.
Talking now with Rocky Bleier, the outstanding running back of the Pittsburgh Steelers, who are the world champions of the NFL. Rocky, great to have you with us in the Republic of Korea.
Well, thanks very much, Tony. It's a pleasure to be here.
I guess the big thing is, and it seems to be the center of attraction, more or less, since you did become big on the scene in the Steelers offensive machine, and that was your foot injury and how you incurred it in Vietnam. You're the owner of the Purple Heart and Bronze Star, and you've come a long way. And how does this injury affect your play? Do you think about it during a game?
Oh, no, not now. I mean, at one time when I got out of the service in 1970 and came back with the Steelers, it really bothered me, and it bothered me through the 71 season. It was a type of injury that nothing could really be done, any constructive. It was a time period. Time had to heal itself. And I got that time with the Steelers, which I was very lucky to be. I was on the injured reserve in 70 and played 8 games in 71, and eventually it came back. So to the point where from 72 on, 73 and this past season, it hasn't really affected me as far as hurting or any conscious effect, and which I'm very happy about. I think one of the biggest things is that anybody who has somewhat of a handicap, and I considered that a handicap at the time, really overcompensates to come back. And, my main goal was to play professional football. It was something I wanted to do. Had a taste of it in '68 before I went into the Army, and I wanted to continue it as a career for as long as I could. And so because of it, I really had to work twice as hard. At least in my mind, I thought I had to, lift weights, do a lot more running. I wasn't that big or that fast, and plus this added injury, didn't give me the edge that I needed. And because of it, I think I really might have overcompensated. I really built myself up. I worked on my speed. I worked on my endurance, and I think just a combination of that and the desire to play got me through a lot of tough periods, maybe somebody else that wouldn't have. And then sometimes I think back and say, geez, I wonder where I would be today if I didn't get hurt. I don't know what would happen. I guess guess the question will never be answered. But today, no, I don't consciously think about it, and it reacts, normally. It's about probably 95%, 90%, healthy, but that's about as best it's going to get.
The summer of '74, when you talked about Pittsburgh Steelers running backs, you talked about Franco Harris, Preston Pearson, Frenchie Fuqua, but looking at the programs or the books that came out about the Steelers and their chances, they were the pick in the Central Division. But Rocky Bleier was mostly in the roster there as the extra running back. What happened that made you all of a sudden a starter in the Steelers backfield?
Well, I think what happened in the beginning of the season, Franco Harris and Steve Davis were our starting running backs. Steve was a good running back, a big, strong kid from Delaware State who's been around for 3 years. And they felt, I think, that Steve was big enough and capable enough that they wanted a big backfield and a very quick and powerful running back. Well, that was our starting backfield. I don't think the problem really lied within the running backs as such. I think our team in the beginning of the year kind of hit and missed. We were winning. We were 4-1-1 after 6 games, but we weren't a powerful team. We weren't running over people. Joe Gilliam started and had a great arm and got us out of a lot of trouble. But we were winning by 3, 4, maybe a touchdown in points were concerned. And our line was young people. They've been around for maybe a year or 2 years, and they're interchanging different positions during the game. Like Jerry Mullins played guard. He played right guard, right tackle, all in one game. And they were trying to get experience, and they're trying to get depth. Was still playing the season because of the strike and because we didn't have that much of a training camp. Well, that affected your running game because, as you know, you need a solid unit, one that knows their assignments and just blows people off the ball. Where we weren't getting that. But finally, about the time that I came in, our offensive line started to open up. We started to get a unit that we played consistently. One of the other points was that I feel, but probably as the coaches were thinking, is that they weren't getting enough blocking out of their halfback. Frank was going to play no matter what, and the type of offense that we run is geared pretty much to fullback offense. Frank was going to run the ball 50% of the time over the other halfback, and so we have to block, the back has to block or make key blocks on defensive ends and linebackers. And I guess they felt they just weren't getting it. And then I had the opportunity, Preston Pearson and myself started the second half of the Houston game, and we squeaked the game out. We won it, but we gained some yardage. Preston gained 118 yards. I gained 40-some yards or so. But we had a unit started to roll. Then we started our first game against Kansas City, and again we won, and we were doing things correctly. And I think that was just, the process of it. It wasn't any miracle thing. I think I was just there at the right time, had put in my apprenticeship, so to speak, and when they called me, I was there and was able to do the job.
Well, I'll tell you, I'm sure that you're looking forward to this coming season to defend your championship. And I know at least this fan right here, this armchair quarterback, is looking forward to watching you try to defend it. Rocky Bleier, thanks a lot for talking with us today, and best of luck to you.
Thanks very much.
Talking now with Bill Granholm, the special assistant to NFL Commissioner Pete Rozelle. Bill is a veteran of bringing these football players to the Republic of Korea, the Far East area, with the USO. Bill, another greeting to the Republic of Korea. This is your
time actually here, but the 8th time I've been involved in these trips. And in the past 3 years, we've been fortunate enough to spend some time here in Korea. And the reception here has always been the very best. And on this particular trip, the guys kept saying to me, I'm really looking forward to Korea, and they've only been here a day, and the reception from the troops is very rewarding.
What basically do the guys do here in Korea, Japan, and Okinawa?
It's basically a handshake tour. I don't know if you're familiar with the origin of the trip, but in 1966, the Department of Defense came to the National Football League and was interested in knowing if we had any ball players that perhaps would desire to visit Vietnam. And at that time, it was questionable as to how practical it would be to send athletes there. The first group was small, 4 men. Frank Gifford, John Unitas, Willie Davis, and Sam Huff. And it went so very well that the next year the program was enlarged so that at times we had groups of about 20 divided up visiting in Vietnam. And when the hostilities wound down there, the program continued, and it's still a handshake tour, but we do carry a film now. And where there's audio present, we do a question and answer period. But basically, it is still to get out and meet with the men and be able to exchange ideas and answer questions that they may have had about the past season. And the fact that they're mobile guys, we don't carry a lot of equipment with us, we can go just about anywhere that anyone would request us. And I think that's part of the success of our trip, that we get into areas perhaps other people haven't been able to visit.
How do these guys make the team that comes over and visits Korea and Japan and Okinawa?
Interestingly enough, it's pretty much of a referral system. It's not an easy trip. It's a no-fee trip, and everyone who's on the trip is actually a volunteer. Oftentimes, they'll speak to a teammate who's made a trip, or perhaps they're at a Pro Bowl game and someone will mention the trip. And I'm identified with the trip, and they'll let me know. Now, for example, this year in our group, we have 3 participants from the Super Bowl game. And the other members of the group were in the finals of the playoff games, Amin Rashad and Tom Mack. So we also, besides having some all-pro and some identifiable ball players, we also have some of the guys that went right down to the wire.
Well, next year, if you should be around the Republic of Korea around this time of the year and some football players are coming over, it'll be a 100 to 1 chance that this fellow right here will be along with them. Bill Granholm, the assistant to Pete Rozelle, the commissioner of the National Football League. Bill, thank you very much for your comments.
Thank you.
This is Ahmad Rashad sitting over here kind of casually, waiting to be talking to. And this is quite an honor for us to have a pro football player from the world come on over and say hello to us here in the Republic of Korea. Ahmad, great to have you with us here in the Republic. Buffalo definitely is a contender for the Super Bowl this coming year. And it seems that they were coming up and up now that Lou Saban has come back from Denver to coach them. What kind of coach is Saban? Does he get a lot more out of athletes than other coaches you've played for?
I think he does. Lou Saban is the type of guy that you have to respect because he just demands that respect. He gives you respect, and in return you give him respect. He's the type of guy that he just wants you to do your job. If you do your job, you're all right with him. If you don't do your job, you won't be around too long. He's another type of guy is that either you love him or you hate him. There's no middle of the road about Lou Saban. I guess he's been a great organizer everywhere he's been. He made Buffalo a contender the first time he was there. He went to Denver, and I think he made them a contender while he was there. Came back to Buffalo, and he organized a great group of athletes. And as you can see now, I think we're ready to make a run for the money.
Of course, you got a little competition in the Eastern Division. It seems that the Eastern Division of the AFC all of a sudden has become the outstanding division. Baltimore had a rough year, but at the end of the season, they weren't losing by 50 points like they were at the beginning of the season. The Jets won 7 in a row. The Patriots were improved. They had injury problems. And, of course, the Bills, and you get the Dolphins on top. What's that division going to look like this fall?
Well, I tell you, to me, I think that's the roughest division in the league because it's such a dogfight for the championship of that division. We've got great teams in Miami, New England, and as you say, Baltimore and New York came on strong at the end of the season. It's hard to tell. It's hard to tell who's going to gel next year. It'll be I think it'll actually be between us, New England, and Miami. But you can't count those other 2 guys out either because they came on so strong at the end of the year.
Has Zonka, Kick, and Warfield make the jump? If they have, that would make a big difference in Miami's fortunes.
Yeah, I'd be happy as hell myself. I hope they do leave. That'll maybe put them out of the contention a little bit.
Ahmad Rashad, it's been a pleasure talking with you, and it's great to have you over here in the Republic, and we thank you very much for talking with us.
Okay, thanks a lot.
Talking now with Carl Eller of the NFC champion Minnesota Vikings. Carl, great to have you with us here in Korea.
Thank you, Tony.
I guess the inevitable question you must get asked everywhere you go is, what happened to the Minnesota Vikings in the Super Bowl?
Well, we've been asked that quite a bit, or I've been asked that quite a bit, and probably the same old story is that it's happened to us more than once, and it seems that it shouldn't happen, but it's just the thing that it has happened to us. But we played a great team on that Super Bowl Sunday, and it just seems that when you play a great team, and I felt we were evenly matched, and the games can go either way. But you take a couple plays out of the game, and we could have easily won it. But well, they were a fine team, and of course all of the other bowls, the Super Bowls, we played against fine teams. But I don't know, maybe the Vikings just haven't had the right thing going on that Super Bowl Sunday, and all we got to do is keep trying to go back and see if we can really put it together on that day, and that's what we intend to do.
The defense really didn't look all that bad, with the exception of Franco Harris running through the line so many times for the Super Bowl rushing record. Jeff Siemens played a great game, I remember, and it just seemed the offense couldn't get things cranked up.
Well, defensively, you try to do as well as you can, and you try to hold your opponent to as less number of points as possible. But Franco didn't do it all by himself. Rocky had a great day that day too, and so did Bradshaw, and their whole team did. But I think their defense really played an outstanding game to sort of stymie our offense the way they did, and I'm sure they didn't expect that, and I'm sure they expected to play more of a game and to probably contribute more than they actually did. But I don't know, it was just a bad day for them. We just couldn't hold them. After a while, their offense, Pittsburgh's offense, just got a couple things going, and once you get behind, I think that really put the pressure on the offense, and the defensive line for the Pittsburgh Steelers could just tee off and come, and that really made it tougher as the game progressed. So it's kind of the way the game went. We started off, we felt we were playing real close there, but once you get down a touchdown or two, and that puts more pressure on the offense.
You play in the so-called black and blue division. That means you get 6 games against teams like Detroit, Green Bay, and Chicago. So you guys, right off the bat, have a pretty tough schedule. And you also played a couple other tough teams last year. How do the Steelers shape up against other teams that you play?
Yes, but being the black and blue, Green Bay is our rival. We play them a tough game. That's a tough game. Detroit and Chicago the past years haven't had the records that some of the other teams have had, but when we're playing our division, we're playing as tough a team as we can possibly play anywhere else in the league. And I think you'll find that most of these teams are really pretty much evenly matched with the exception of a few personnel. And, of course, Pittsburgh just happened to have the type of personnel where they had it all together. They had all the right people in there, and they were playing great ball the time when we played them. So that has a lot to do with it. Things were going right for them. They came off the big game with Oakland and also with Buffalo, and Bradshaw coming in toward the end of the season really played. I don't think there was any team that was playing better than them at that point of the season.
Okay, you seem really docile here. You're a nice guy. It's nice talking here with you, but all of a sudden on Sunday, you not just yourself, but all the defensive linemen seem to turn into raving maniacs trying to get at that quarterback. Where does the transition come? Where do you all of a sudden become the madman out there? At least it seems that you want to get that guy. Where does this transition come during the week?
Well, I don't know. We don't actually become madmen. Sometimes we do. We get very angry and really riled up. But mostly we're out there trying to do our job. And, of course, the guys we're competing against, it makes you've got to do it at the peak of your performance. And you can't expect to do your job by simply going through the motions. And you know that you've got to get up for it because you're going to go out there and you're going to compete against guys that are capable of making you look bad, just to coin a phrase. And you got to be ready to play the game, mostly because that's what you do and that's your job, and you want to be good at it, and you try to do your best. And I think that's there's an excitement going on, and I don't know. I don't really feel any different out on the field, except that I know that I can't really start kicking over tables and stuff around here, But, and, I'm sure all these guys are the same way, they're gentlemen off the field.
Well, over the Minnesota Vikings, so many sports going on now, you got to remember the right nickname. He's an all-pro defensive end, and we've really been thrilled to have you with us, talking with us here now, and best of luck to you and the Vikings this coming season, Carl.
Thank you, Tony. Thank you.
Talking now with Jim Mandich, the tight end of the world champion Miami Dolphins. Jim, the Dolphins have won 2 Super Bowls now in a row. They've been in the Super Bowl 3 years in a row. Just what sets the Dolphins apart from other pro teams?
Well, I think it's just like any other organization. The thing that you have to point to is your leadership. In our case, our leader is Don Shula. I think by far he's the finest coach in the National Football League today. Great organizer, great leader. He surrounds himself with fine assistants. I like to think he has good personnel, and those factors, plus the intangibles and a little luck, have led us to the last 2 Super Bowl titles.
He doesn't seem to get too excited during a game. He kind of just stands there with his arms folded, and even after you score a touchdown, he might clap every once in a while, but he doesn't seem to get too excited about the progress of the game.
Our unemotionalism is pretty well documented, but I don't think that that's the case. Everyone prepares themselves in a different way. Our preparedness comes from within and not a lot of outward display of enthusiasm. So we're an enthusiastic bunch, but just not in an outward manner.
The Dolphins now, like I say, won 2 Super Bowls. What else is there to do?
Go back and win another one. That's our goal and always has been. We point for a spot in the playoffs every year, and if you make the playoffs, then you have a chance to win the World's Championship. And it's just as exciting the second year or the third year as it is the first.
Jim Mandich, thanks a lot for being in the Republic, and best of luck to you and the Dolphins this coming season.
Thank you very much.
This little guy standing to my left is Darren Talbot, a defensive tackle for the Washington Redskins. Darren, it's good to have you here in the Republic. He's here along with the USO Tour, touring professional football players. And Darren, I guess a question that's on a lot of people's minds is what happened to the Redskins this year? They were expected to do just a little bit better. They made the playoffs, but what happened?
I think in the game with Minnesota, we thought we were at a little disadvantage. You notice that all the teams that won the playoffs this year were teams that had the home field advantage. So that was one of the small reasons that we lost the ball game. Had we won our division, we'd have been able to play in RFK Stadium. I think the big reason we lost, we played good defense all year, and that game came around. We had to stop one man, one of the men that's on the tour with us, John Gilliam, and he caught 2 touchdown passes that day. The only 2 passes he caught, but they're the ones that killed us.
What about the quarterback situation? Sonny and Billy are both getting rather old, and you just kind of got the rights to Joe Theismann. You think he is in the picture for the future?
I definitely think he's a good young quarterback, and he has a lot of potential, but he hasn't proven himself really in professional football. I think that Billy Kilmer will be our #1 quarterback next year, and Sonny Jurgensen, he definitely wants to come back again also. So I think we have a pretty good quarterback group. I think 2 real fine leaders, and Billy and Sonny Jurgensen, and Joe Theismann, a good young quarterback too.
Larry Brown had a rough start. What was the cause of this?
Well, a lot of people try to blame it on the fact that Larry held out early in the season, but all the players are always pulling for the guys to make the extra money. I don't think that's the reason Larry had a bad year. It may have affected him a little bit psychologically, but he's still a fine running back, and he just signed a new 3-year contract with the Washington Redskins, and I look for him to be to play as well the next 3 years as he played 2 years ago.
What can we look forward to from the Redskins this season? Do you think that you'll either go up or down?
Well, I think we're going to win. As long as George Allen is there, he's going to bring in the necessary players to make you win. He tries to surround his players like Don Shula does with a good coaching staff, and I think with Billy Kilmer coming back healthy, and with Sonny Jurgensen, he's going to have his knee worked over, and then with Joe Theismann, the 3 of them competing for the top slot, I think we'll have a good shot at the World Championship next year.
Thanks for being with us, Darren, and best of luck to you and the Washington Redskins this coming season.
Okay, Tony.
Talking now with Franco Harris, the outstanding running back of the Pittsburgh Steelers. Franco, you gained over 1,000 yards your first season as a rookie, and this kind of led to a thing in Pittsburgh called Franco's Army or whatever. It's big fans back there. Can you explain it a little bit more?
Right. It was something that just tended to happen. One day, a guy approached me at the stadium and said, "Hey, Franco, there's this guy, he's a baker. He'd like to form a fan club, and he wants to call it Franco's Italian Army, and et cetera, et cetera." He said, he has a bakery shop, and, it's in a black neighborhood, and that, he would like to like more or less get some good relations and good public relations and everything like that, just to try to tie the whole thing together. And also, he says, well, we need a whole army to move the city of Pittsburgh towards something, because the fan situation there has really been bad before that. They really didn't have any team support at all.
They didn't have much of a team, really, for 40 years.
Well, yeah, it was pretty bad. But then, like the people wanted to get involved, and they really wanted to start pushing the fans because they realized that fan support is a big part of the team around. So, I said, fine, go ahead. And then all of a sudden, like here it was, and then I guess this happened at the right place at the right time, because I had a good game during the game that they came out, and during the game they had the banner, and it was my first 100-yard game and my first touchdown. And so most of the news clips picked it up, and most of the news wires picked it up, and it went just about all around the country. And then from then on, it just grew.
The Army didn't have too much to cheer about last year. You were hurt a lot of the season. Are you all put back together?
Yeah, right now I really feel fine. I had some problems during my second year, and really, we had certain key injuries in a lot of places, and when you have key injuries in places throughout the season to certain personnel, it's hard to really get the unison that you want to maintain through the season, and I think that really kind of hurt the team also. But I feel that now I'm strong, and I'm gonna really work hard during the off season to really try to get myself together, and I'm sure the team realizes what we have to do now to get into the playoffs, because we've been in playoffs 2 years.